When we last left the Perfect Movie Brothers, they were about to start a discussion of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, as well as other films from the 2023 movie year. Let's listen in to what they have to say. I thought it was good.
Really? I wasn't expecting that.
I did. I think. So, I mean, it's not classic Indiana Jones. I mean, nothing can really touch any of those first three. It's certainly not as offensive as Temple of Doom in some ways.
Does Short Round make a return in this?
No, but
he had his
kind
big year
of
last year.
We kind of have a Short Round 2.0. There's a new kid.
A new Asian with a hat?
No, just a kid. This
Okay.
one's, I believe, from South America somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So, one thing that I think might make this okay for Indiana Jones is its source material. Indiana Jones is based off like old serials.
Yep.
Which is, you know, the continuing adventures of Indiana Jones. He's deep in these catacombs, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and you would go to the theaters, and that's what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg saw in the theaters, and you'd catch them weekly, and they'd just be these short films, the continuing adventures of whoever. So I do think it's a little more okay with Indiana Jones than any other character, a lot of other characters, to be like, let's see what happens to Indiana Jones when he's old as shit, you know? You can kind of wheel them back out, and it's just another adventure.
Yeah.
And I think what I liked about this, like, I think this is certainly better than Crystal Skull. There's no action that is as offensively awful as, like, all the jungle action in Crystal Skull. Like, they kind of smartly get around Indiana Jones being older as shit because he just shoots people or drives cars.
Yeah, he's not doing a lot of running, is he?
He's not running around a lot, except in the beginning where we get deep fake CGI Indiana Jones, which is really uncanny valley sometimes, looks really good other times.
Is he de-aged?
Yeah, it's digitally de-aged Indiana Jones. And it's like, it's weird. I think... It's just not. Maybe it's just low expectations, but it just felt like another adventure.
Yeah,
and it felt okay to come back. And it is a little bit too long. There's like a little bit too much action scene, a whole lot, and it's like 2.5 hours. And it felt like there's moments that could be tightened up. Mm-hmm. But, like, the goons are fun. There's Mads Mikkelsen and his squad of, like, Nazis that want to return back in time. The Dial of Destiny is a device that has to do with time. The opening action scene is in World War II, and it's on a train, and that's where they get the Dial of Destiny, and they meet the Mads Mikkelsen character for the first time. It's a fun action sequence if you can get past, oh, my God, Harrison Ford, what's wrong with your face?
Spy. What did you come here for?
You got a lot of nice stuff.
To the victor belongs the spoils.
To the victor. Berlin's in rubble. The Fuhrer's in hiding. You lost.
Does he seem like he gives a fuck in this?
Yeah. I do think, like, so I'm going full spoilers with Dial of Destiny. This one's kind of a mild spoiler. This is in the middle of the movie. So he reunites with this woman that's his goddaughter. It's this friend, the daughter of a friend. And she's like, she just steals relics for money, and she's after the same thing he's after, and she just wants to sell it. And they have this moment where they're together on the adventure later in the adventure, and we find out what Indy's so sad about, because when we first meet Indy, he's alone in this apartment, and somebody turns on loud music, and he like goes down on their door with a baseball bat and tells them to turn down the loud ass music. And it's like, why is Indy so bitter? And it's because after Indiana Jones 4, he got married to Marion Ravenwood. They're getting divorced, and Mutt, Shia LaBeouf's character off screen, has died in the Vietnam War, or the Korean War or whatever it was.
Oh, Shiloh.
What if you could go back in time? What would you do? Witness the Trojan War? Check in on Cleopatra?
I'd stop my son from enlisting.
Did he sign up to please you?
No, he signed up to piss me off.
Well, how would you have stopped him?
I told him he was gonna die. I told him that his mother would find no end to her grief, and that his father would be helpless to console her, and that the loss would put an end to their marriage.
And it made their marriage fall apart. And the way he and like, it's kind of corny to do all that off screen, but the way he delivers it is actually really good. Like, damn, Harrison Ford's a good movie star. And it is when he does give a shit. Like, I felt it a little bit, even though I don't give a fuck about Mutt. And I don't actually think that they keep coming back with Marion Ravenwood as like this forever love for him. Like, whatever. It was the ongoing adventures of Indiana Jones. He gets a new love interest every time. That's the whole deal.
Yeah. He's like Safari James Bond.
Yeah. James Bond with a whip. No, and and it's well done, and I just, and then it gets so absurd in the end, because at the end they fly through a time portal. The bad guy has the device, and there's this portal open in the sky, and the sequence jumps the fucking shark, because our short round kid, it's the middle of this driving rainstorm. He just hops in a plane, and maybe I missed them setting up for some reason that he would have any idea how to do this, but he just hops in a plane and flies it and chases Indy, who's in the Nazis' plane, through this time portal. They come out on the other side of the time portal. They're like, haha, because the Nazi wanted to go back to like 1939 Germany, kill Hitler, and be the new leader, and like fix the mistakes that Hitler would make. Okay. They don't end up there. They end up back in Archimedes' time. It's the Romans attacking the Greeks, and and there's like 10 minutes of Nazis against Middle Ages like Romans. They're like shooting arrows at their World War II airplane, and
that's
like
pretty lit.
It's fucking ridiculous. They go through time. They meet Archimedes. They do the whole like time loop thing where it's like they give them the piece, so Archimedes knows how to finish the time thing, so they're able to go back in time to give him the piece to finish the thing, so they create like a forever time loop.
Okay.
Indy wants to stay home. No, he wants to not stay home. He wants to stay in medieval times, which I think some people might have a problem with, but for me, I'm like, Indy is a massive like archaeology nerd. This is like an archaeology nerd's wet dream, just living in the Middle Ages.
And getting the Black Plague.
Yeah. The goddaughter's like, no, you're going to die because he's been shot and there's no modern medicine.
Yeah,
and that scene ends really funnily because you think there's going to be a bunch of like emotional talking, and the goddaughter just punches him in the face and he wakes up in modern times. I thought that was a great way to handle that. They end in modern times, and he wakes up and you think it's his apartment, but it's not. And earlier we'd met, I forget his name, but he's our friend from Raiders of Lost Ark. He's visiting, and he's there with his grandkids. And Marion walks back in, and she's like, "Indy, are you back?" And he's like, "Yeah." like Keanu Reeves in John Wick 4.
Yeah.
No, but and
it sounds fun.
And they like reconnect, and it's not like overdone, and I won't spoil the last shot for you, but it's cute and it's adorable, and it's like, I don't know. I just felt like, you know what? If we're gonna do the 30 years later, put a button on a sequel. It's not perfect. It's got some flaws, but overall, it's inoffensive. It does not actually dangle member berries in front of your face constantly. Okay. Like, it's pretty like, this is a new adventure of Indiana Jones. What if Indy was old as shit?
Right. See, when I saw the trailer for this, and I'm not as well versed in Indiana Jones as probably you are. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom, maybe. But it just seemed to me like the recent Jurassic World, where we're bringing back all these iconic characters for member berries and for nostalgia bait. And I hated Jurassic World. I hated it so much. It was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And it was offensive to me.
That film hurt me as a person.
It really did. And it's like, one scene that pissed me off was like, they have to have Jeff Goldblum say, "Oh, life finds a way," and it's just like, shut the fuck up, please. Like, I just can't stand it when they keep bringing back these old fucking senile people into these movies and they don't care because none of them want to do this shit anymore. They did it 30 years ago. Why are we making them do this again? Yeah. For what? What is this? And then I don't know. The whole concept just kind of pisses me off, and so that's why I stayed away from this one. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much of that, and I actually had really low expectations. It has not been well reviewed, particularly.
From what you explained, it sounds fun.
The general consensus is like, yeah, better than Crystal Skull, and yeah, that's about what I'd say. Like, better than Crystal Skull. It's not high praise, but it's also like I had good enough fun. Like, I'd probably watch it again sometime. Like, it's so some of the indie action I think is fun, and I think I do just like that, just the you know, the world round adventures of Indiana Jones. Like, I just like that vibe, and it captures it without being like, nostalgia bait completely.
Right.
So
my only gripe is I wish there was more Asian kids with hats.
Nope. What if I gave you one kid from Peru with a unibrow?
All right. Front row seat. Speaking of kids, I recently watched this little movie called TMNT Mutant Mayhem, and it's directed by Jeff Rowe, and it's screenplay by Seth Rogen and a handful of others, and it is a pretty fun time. You haven't checked this one out, have you? Mm-mm. Okay, so everybody knows the Ninja Turtles. They're just a part of pop culture now. It's based on a comic book run from back in the 90s or early 80s, whenever. And it's just exploded into popularity. And I think everybody's biggest memory is probably the movie from the 90s with the practical Ninja Turtles. And I love that movie to this day. It's a lot of fun. This kind of like goes back to that formula of like, these are actual teenagers, and they're kind of going on this like adventure of discovery of one's self and figuring out who they are as people. I mean, not people, but turtles, but they're trying to also like fit into society. And so I saw this movie as like Ninja Turtles, but for the next generation. And I think it was handled very well. The artistic style is pretty similar in the same vein as like the Spiderverse movies. It's really, really nice to look at. Just really impressive visually. It's kind of like, it's almost like a culmination of like Spiderverse, but then also if like your 5-year-old daughter was drawing a picture, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really smudgy, and all the like the black outlines are kind of like scribbled on. It's just really, really interesting, and it seemed like a lot of work went into to make this. And one thing that really stood out to me was just like the voice acting, and this is fantastic. So the cast goes as Micah Abbey as Donatello, Shamon Brown Jr. as Michelangelo, Nicholas Cantu as Leonardo, Brady Noon as Raphael, Ayo Edebiri as April O'Neil, John Cena Rocksteady, Seth Rogen as Bebop, Ice Cube as Superfly, and just a bunch of others. This is a pretty star-studded cast. But I want to focus mainly on the 4 Ninja Turtles, because these are actual teenagers that they got for this. And an interesting aspect of how they recorded their voice lines, they had all 4 of these actors in the same room at all times with each other while they're recording. And they also let them improvise a lot of the scenes as well. And so their dialogue is just really natural.
Boys, where have you been? I've been freaking out.
We're sorry, Dad.
It was this one thing. It was this cat, and you know I'm scared of cats, so...
Yeah, we did have to...
Wait a second. You said you would go shopping, then come right back. Where were you?
Let me
Nothing. Look, we're really sorry, Splinter. Some of the guys want to see a movie and I try to talk them out of it.
Leo! What? You watch a movie with a humans? Ugh.
You ratted us out.
Hey, don't use that word that way.
It's 2023.
Sorry, Dad.
I work with kids, and my nephew is in his teens, and I just hear him talking whenever I hear these kids talking, and it's really interesting because a lot of the lingo is the same as like how kids would talk today. It's just really natural. It's a really clever way to record voices and to make these characters really come alive. And I think it's like the best interpretation of the Ninja Turtles because, I mean, they are teenagers in the title, and it focuses more on the teenage aspect and not so much the ninja aspect. And Jackie Chan as Master Splinter, he's really great. He's really funny. It's just a really funny, well-made movie. Ice Cube as Superfly is really great, really cool villain. He's really menacing at times, which was really interesting. There's a lot of like darker comedy as well. They keep talking about how the Ninja Turtles, they don't want to get captured by humans because the humans are going to milk them. Like,
What?
It's just like different things like that. It's the goofiest shit. But I thought if I'm going to have any negatives about this, I think that the plot is not anything to really write home about. I mean, what do you really expect from a Ninja Turtles movie as far as plot?
Yeah, it's really villain of the week stuff.
Yeah.
For Ninja Turtles.
I mean, it was the same with like the Super Mario movie. I don't know if you watched that.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun movie. It's really nice to look at as well. But I mean, if you're expecting a grandiose plot about Mario, I think you're watching the wrong thing.
I need Mario to make a movie about the patriarchy. To really get me interested.
Mario has like a corporate business where he makes Mario Karts and he doesn't
And
let
they
women
pollute
get
the earth?
employed. Yes. And he has problems with diversity in his
And he has to go
company.
green. But he always wears red.
And so him and Luigi are always at odds like
Yeah.
in the movie. Yeah. So yeah, I'd totally recommend TMNT Mutant Mayhem. It is a good time. I think you should probably check it out if it ever comes on streaming. Yeah.
Roger Dodger. That does sound fun. I'm somewhat interested in it. I'm just waiting my time.
If you like Spiderverse and that style of animation, it's great. And I think that's one thing about Spiderverse that we can like. They're really like at the forefront of this like new frontier of animation, and it's kind of amazing. And it's really bringing back the art in animation.
Yeah, and this is from Seth Rogen's production company, which I think does also have a hand in the Spider-Verse movies as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to get to another blockbuster after blockbuster.
Oh, my God.
Hey, if you're from China, this might be your favorite blockbuster. It's The Meg 2, The Trench. A movie that is so focused on China. It's amazing. I think it's actually a Chinese co-production. So I watched The Meg and The Meg 2. I've read the Meg novels. I'm weirdly...
When did you
As a teenager, I read the Meg novels way back before this movie. Okay, so the Meg movie has been in production hell for years. Like, these books came out in the early 2000s, I think.
Okay.
And they got optioned almost right away because it's just like Jaws but more bigger. And they've been in production hell for a long time. And eventually, I forget who comes along, but somebody makes the Meg 1. And the Meg 1, so here's the thing about the Meg 2, The Trench. China a lot. Like, Chinese super, like, half the movies in, like, Mandarin. Like, they're speaking, like, Mandarin or Cantonese. Like, two of the characters, they speak it primarily.
Okay.
The whole like corporation that Jason Statham works for is a Chinese company. All the extras were in the Big Shark Attack at the end. China. It's a China. I'm not even trying. Okay,
that's interesting.
Well, I think it's like a Chinese co-production, and it's like the Meg is like a big like property in China, like more so even than here. Like
really?
Like that's their biggest target market. It's got Chinese co-stars, and the same for the original The Meg. I think it's just one of those premises that translates really well internationally, especially if you're going to put Chinese stars in there, where it's just like shark attacks people.
Well, it's like I think like any Asian country is big on like the creature feature. I mean, Godzilla, Japanese, like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So like the Meg 2, I think it was kind of a misstep for me. I actually watched them backwards because I was like, whatever, the Meg 2, The Trench, I'm gonna check this out. And then I went back and watched the Meg 1. The Meg 1 feels like they made an accidental camp movie where they were doing it straight-faced, and it just has some camp charm because it's an absurd premise. The Meg is about deep down in the Mariana Trench, there are megalodons, ancient sharks that are like 10 times as big as a great white. They look just like them, but they're like, you know, like 60 feet long instead of 20 feet long or whatever the fuck. They're massive. And they escape one day because there's like a thermal layer between of water between that they don't normally get through. But one day explorers accidentally punch a hole through them and the sharks chase them through. And now the megalodon is free. Massive big ass shark. And they play it straight in the first one, and then the second one tries to do the winking like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like Jason Statham fucking fights him with a katana at some point, and like that's just one of many absurd things that happen at the end of this movie. But the most absurd thing that happens is in the middle. So in Meg 2, The Trench, they go down, they crash their submarines, right? And then they get in, and they're in the fucking bottom of the Mariana Trench. They are 30,000 feet under the water or whatever. They get in there, it's kind of future super technological suits, and they trudge across to this base that they saw at the bottom that they don't know who's in this base. So they get in this base. Some people die, some people don't. As they're getting into this base, some person's like mask is, you know, shattering slowly. There's a crack and it's getting bigger, and they just pop like a fucking cherry. But then later on, they get in a situation where they're trapped in this area and it's about to flood. Jason Statham's like, hold on, I got an idea. And he just breathes out super hard, and he goes in the airlock, and then he swims outside, and one of the characters in the background's like, you'll die. And they're like, fish don't die. How can fish swim down here? If he just blows out all the air out of his lungs, he'll survive. So he swims around to the other door under 30,000 feet of water because he breathed out real hard.
If only the people in the submarine were Jason Statham.
If only that lady whose head popped just a second ago had breathed out real hard. She could have survived.
That would have been valuable information for her.
Yeah. Somebody should have said, hey, lady, if you just breathe out real hard just now, you'll be just fine. At the bottom of the fucking ocean.
What pressure? I don't know.
In the deepest part of the darkest part of the fucking ocean, Jason Statham survives by just swimming and breathing out real hard. So after that, it's like anything can happen. Anything's possible. So when he's fucking on a jet ski trying to slash a horse with a katana, I'm like, fucking great, whatever. Like, the Meg 2 was just on my radar because it tried to be like, hey, isn't this ridiculous?
Yeah.
And it's like annoying when you're in on the joke. It's endearing when you're taking it serious.
Yeah.
And it is just absurd, but you're not constantly winking and saying, whoa, isn't this crazy?
It's like the Sharknado effect, where the first Sharknado was like, it was just a really bad movie. And then the second one was like, oh, well, we're just going to keep cashing in on that because it's funny.
Sharknado 2, let's cast Gary Busey.
Yeah.
You know, like, so, and it gets stupid. There's fucking like dinosaurs that are both can swim in the bottom of the ocean. And they
Dinosaurs?
Well, they're like, they swim in the ocean and then they come out on land and they're walking around and chasing people. I don't really know what to call them. They're little like quadruped. Stupid. I'd say watch the Meg 1, don't watch the Meg 2. The Meg 1 was actually more fun than the Meg 2. Even though it's less absurd and less like, whoa, isn't this crazy? I don't know. The second one got on my nerves. Also, China.
Do you think Jason Statham is a communist?
No, and neither is China, so there's that.
Let's say China. 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 You go over to China. 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 You take China.
China.
China. I love them. China. China. China, China, China. I have to have my China. China, China, because China, 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 China. China, 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 China now, China, China. You know, China. I know China very well. China, 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 China. China, China, China.
Northwest Wisconsin, where I'm from.
It's China to me, China.
It's a Meg. It's going to feed. Kaylin, do you have any other movies you want to talk about?
So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Beau is Afraid. I watched this about a month ago. I was a little late on this movie just because seeing the trailer, I was like, oh, this is so like anxious looking and I'm not in the mood for it. And it was like a 3-hour plus long movie and I was just not in the mood. But I got around to watching it because I'm interested in the director. So this is directed by Ari Aster and he's best known for Hereditary and Midsommar. Those two movies are regarded as some of the best horror movies of the past decade. Hereditary was even, people were saying it was the best horror movie since The Exorcism. The Exorcist. The Exorcist. I have yet to see both of those, but I watched Beau is Afraid. I'm going to get around to watching Hereditary this Halloween season. I think we might do an episode.
We should do Hereditary then if we both haven't seen it. Yeah. I watched Midsommar. I didn't like Midsommar that much, but
okay. Yeah, I've heard Midsommar is the weakest out of the two, but it's still a really well-made movie. So it's kind of the same with Beau is Afraid. It can be really good at times. I know the first half of this movie was very impressive, and then it went into the realm of just complete unbelievability, and it was very pretentious, and it was hard to follow along. It was hard to know what was going on, and the movie is very dreamlike. So it follows the story of a man named Beau. He's just like this hyper anxious man. He's really socially anxious, and he can't be around people too long without freaking the fuck out. And he's constantly like, whenever he needs to go outside, or like there's a corner store across the street from his apartment complex, and whenever he goes outside, he just does a complete sprint across the street. And it's in this really like hyper elevated like society where everybody's fucking nuts, but you don't know if it's all in Beau's mind or if this is actually how it is in this world. And so everybody on the street is like ravenous and fucking insane and murdering people. Like there's a guy like just stabbing the shit out of some dude on the street and just smiling at Beau while he's doing it, and freaks Beau out, of course. And so there's just that it's like surreal and there's just this surreal like reality that we're watching, and it can be really impressive to look at, because it's kind of that Martin Scorsese thing where it's like there's all these extras doing their thing and they're just running around the set and acting crazy and doing all this kind of stuff. And like the character of Beau is really interesting too, because I saw it more as like a commentary on somebody who has like mental illness and somebody who's just like so anxious and so afraid of human interaction. And it was a really like kind of not realistic, but it was a really interesting portrayal of somebody's mindset during a bout of anxiety. And then it goes on this kind of like Odyssey adventure with Beau as he's trying to go see his mother who had passed away. And so he goes on this adventure and meets different people. At one point, he meets up with his family after getting hit by a car, and they're taking care of him, but it turns out this family is fucking nuts, and their daughter is crazy and suicidal. And so he escapes from them, and he's getting chased by this man that lives with them, and that's trying to kill Beau for whatever reason. And then he runs into this group of actors who are putting on a play in the forest. And this is again another moment of the movie where it was just like very visually appealing, because there's like these panels so they're putting on this play, and there's these certain scenes that they're doing, and it's all this play backdrop, and it's also like showing parts of Bo's life through this, and it's like sometimes it switches to like watercolors, and it's just really, really interesting. Were you gonna say something? Or okay. And then it fast forwards and it keeps going, and then it gets to the end, and it's the most pretentious crap where it's trying to. I don't really even know what it was trying to say, but there was like a penis monster. And there's this really awkward sex scene where this woman dies on top of him when he ejaculates. And it was bizarre, man. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on here? What are you guys trying to do? And so it turns out Bo's dad is like this giant penis monster. Full spoilers for this movie. I don't really recommend it, but if you want to watch something super weird, go for it. But it turns out Bo's dad is like this like weird penis monster, but Bo's mom had always told him that his dad died a long time ago. His dad died during sex, and Bo has the same condition. So it's kind of like Munchausen syndrome with him and his mother, and it's just a weird time. I don't really know how to explain it. I don't really even know what I watched when I watched it. I thought it was really good in the first half, and then completely fell on its face in the later half. So. If you are in the mood for something weird and you like Ari Aster, I think you should probably watch it. If not, don't.
She's very pretty. Is that the type of girl you're attracted to?
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you. But I wanted a child.
I'm visiting my mother tomorrow. Do you ever wish that she was dead? What?
Bo? Are you on your way?
I'm on my way. It's not safe, is it?
I sincerely doubt that.
I'm sure you'll do the right thing, sweetheart.
You know, a man on the internet once said, "You had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie."
Yeah.
One of those. Now we're getting to the more uneven section of the podcast where I'm going to talk about Skinamarink. Skinamarink is a weird-ass indie horror film that's really experimental. It's done by a ex-YouTuber. It's a real, like, ethereal horror / it almost seems more like an art installation than a movie. So, Skinamarink is, I guess, about two young kids that wake up one night in their home and things are just kind of surreal, and all of a sudden all the doors are gone and they can't find their parents. And sort of just the world slowly kind of folds in around them as it's clear they're either in a nightmare or they're in some sort of like hell zone or whatever. But that's things you pick up as you watch, because it's almost like everything you see in this movie is overheard or like overseen, because a lot of this movie is like the soft sound of like the crackling of like a old like film stock when it's recording something, like and overheard cartoons on a television and shadows and just static shots of just things around the house. And then you'll hear like a bump, or you'll hear a kid in this old crackly staticky voice just being like, "I think I heard something," or something, just whispered lines. And it's really about setting a very like creepy mood. There is a little bit of plot there. Eventually, I'm going to give full spoilers for Skinamarink. Before I get to that, I'd say it's really experimental. There's a short film. If you just look up Skinamarink short film, you can probably find the short on YouTube. Basically, my review of this is like, it was interesting, but it didn't need to be an hour and 20 minutes. The short films probably does just as much in less time. Mm-hmm. But it's just setting a mood that's very evocative of just like, yeah, like if you have any memories of having a bad nightmare when you're a child and waking up in like the pitch black and just feeling like alone and afraid, it really does like provoke that feeling out of you really effectively. But then there's just a lot of time where not a lot happens, and it can get kind of boring.
In this house. In this house. In this house.
The story eventually kind of ends up being like, yeah, they are like in some sort of like, the parents are gone. They've, at one point, like the girl goes upstairs and the mom is in the bed, but she's like catatonic and she's like doesn't react to her. And at some point she like stands up and walks across the room, and like it's like a trance-like state. And it just seems like they're in some sort of like warp dimension where just things are not real. That motherfucker over there is not real. And eventually there's like a voice that starts speaking to him, and like they start like telling one of the kids to like cut themselves. I'm forgetting some of the details, and like there is some real like gore that you see some of the gore, like kind of see the gore, and it happens off screen, and like some brutal stuff happens, and it kind of just ends, I think, with the boy in the pitch black, like alone and afraid. And it's like really, it is like that nightmarish quality, and I really want to award just like the skin crawling like mood that it sets. And like I said, it's like I could see this showing in a museum where you just like pick up like 8 minutes of it in that dark room, and you can just leave at any time, you know?
Yeah.
And like you would still kind of get the same vibe, because even when nothing's happening, just like this soft crackling of the like film playing, and just the mood and images all just does create this like haunting vibe. It's interesting. It's not really, it's kind of not a movie, but it might be better as a short film, but it's trying something. And it was kind of like a viral thing. It was a lot more successful than a movie that I think was made for like $4,000 should ever be.
That's interesting. I want to go back to something you said. I mean, you said this is made by YouTubers. I feel like this has just been a thing recently of like YouTubers making very successful horror films. And I'm thinking Talk to Me. I know the kid who made the Backrooms short film is got a deal coming up where he's going to make a full feature-length film.
Yep.
I think it's interesting. I think it's cool that these creators are getting finally, I mean, they had a platform, but they're getting an even bigger platform to show their full vision. And I think that's pretty cool. So,
yeah. You wanted to do Spiderverse last?
Yeah.
Did you have anything else
for last?
Before that? Otherwise, I got one more.
I just had Spiderverse.
Okay, so the last thing I was going to talk about was Reality. It's on HBO Max. It's probably going to be on my end of year list, along with maybe a couple others that we've talked to here. Probably Spiderverse will be too.
I also watched this.
Reality is the story. It's a true story, and it's like the truest of stories, which is this and Skinamarink. I kind of just award for being like kind of like new. Like almost newfound genres, or like really like groundbreaking ideas
of movies that don't feel like movies.
Yeah. So not Skinamarink. Reality is it's the true story of a woman named Reality Winner. One day, FBI agents show up at her door, and you don't really know why, but what you do know, and this is true, like this is true story. Every piece of dialogue from this movie is verbatim, word for word, taken from an FBI recording device of the real interaction between Reality Winner and FBI agents when they showed up on her house one day in like 2017 or wherever it was.
This is my partner. What partner? Wally Taylor. Hey, how are you?
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. How's your day today?
It's pretty good. Just got some groceries.
All right. Let's show you who we are. Okay, well, the reason we're here today is that we have a search warrant for your house.
Okay.
All right. Do you know what this might be about?
I have no idea.
Okay. This is about possible mishandling of classified information.
Oh my goodness, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it's only an hour and 20 minutes, it's on Max. I think it's best to go into the movie not knowing the full like picture.
I agree.
I didn't watch the trailer even. I just watched it. So I would just go watch it if like a true story based on if that interests you. What it is about is reality is it slowly unwinds, and it's just the little details. It's such a tense movie that almost nothing happens.
Yeah.
The men show up. They're pretty nice. Everything's kind of like congenial. Everyone's pretty like calm and respectful of each other, but there's just that ratcheting tension in the background, or it's like we still don't know why these guys are here.
Well, there's also that passive aggressive like kind of overtone as well, where it's like these guys kind of flip like on a dime of like their personality, and it's really interesting.
Oh yeah, it's a very real like law enforcement trick. The kind of good cop bad cop kind of just like politely forceful. Politely is not a word, but you know, politely forceful.
Yeah.
And just there's a lot of that. The main three actors, Sydney Sweeney and then the two FBI agents, are just really good. And there's just lots of just minor details. Like one detail, there's a lot of the end of the movie is in this back room where the three men are talking. And then at some point, one of the FBI agents just opens the door and goes, "Is this a door? Sorry, is this a room?" I don't know.
Yeah.
Like just people get interrupted. Half of the movie, like half the beginning of the movie is just people talking about her dog and what to do with her cat. And it's just all the minor details, table setting for this big reveal, which is that reality they're there because reality works at some sort of government center. She handles sensitive documents, and she was a whistleblower who gave The Guardian some info about like possible Trump-Russia collusion. And the FBI agents are there to arrest her for that. And like doesn't have any like concept of this is a true story.
She's also ex-military as well.
Yeah, she's ex-military. She's planning to like move on to a different job soon. And like the only reason the police know about this, or the FBI knows about this, is like The Guardian in real life like accidentally outed her in the way they reported it, and they like basically screwed up, and that's why they ended up at their door. And I just think it's both an important story just in the like, this is real. The government can arrest you for like your whistleblowing. Like her argument is, of course, like the people should have known.
Yeah.
People do maybe have a right to know. Yeah. And it's just a interesting concept because there's lots of biopics and there's lots of like the dramatic portrayal of reality, but this is just reality. Like this is just what happened, basically, and nothing else. And that's just like I've never seen something so nakedly like close to the truth.
It was really well done. I know there's some scenes that like kind of make you feel really like uncomfortable. I know there was a part where they were kind of talking about making some side comments about her cat, and it almost felt like they were talking about her, and it was very like uncomfortable and kind of demeaning almost. And it makes it even more uncomfortable when you realize this is real. Like these are real FBI agents who said these things, and like it's kind of interesting to see how they handle situations like this as well. And it's pretty cool. And the lead actress, she's really good. She's also a main actor in the show Euphoria as well. she's kind of blowing up.
Yeah. Real just invasion of privacy vibes for a lot of it.
Yeah.
So it's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
And it's pretty short. It's like an hour, 20 minutes. So you can just knock it right out.
Yeah. Almost felt like a TV show.
Yeah.
And you want to see more kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. Our finale.
Across the Spiderverse.
It's about Spider-Man. Spider-Men?
Spider women.
Spider people.
Spider pigs.
Spider pig. Spider pig.
Possibly the best movie that came out this year. At least one of them. It's my personal favorite. I was really looking forward to seeing this. Into the Spiderverse was fantastic and is a modern classic at this point. I was very surprised that they did it again and that they kind of like elevated it even more, and it's almost better than the original. I see this as like the Empire Strikes Back of the Spiderverse movies, and it's really that. It ends on a crazy cliffhanger, and you're itching to see more, and fantastic, and everything is crispy, and it's just a great fun time.
Yes. Into the Spiderverse is on our perfect movie list.
It is.
Across the Spiderverse, I texted you after I watched it, and I said, is this the best sequel since Empire Strikes Back? Because you're right. It does all the sequel things. It ups the ante in stakes, in like creativity, in, action and adventure, in scope.
Yeah.
And it does all those things without losing sight of the characters. And in fact, it enriches the lives of all these characters that we've seen and the ones that we returned from our previous movie. Right. The themes that it gets at are still like core themes to like this whole series. Seems like it's about kind of like belonging and authorship and like who runs your life and who gets to choose what life you lead.
Right.
And it's really excellent. It's so shocking that the animation is next level compared to something that was already
next level.
So spectacular and like above and beyond the competition, and they just up the ante even more. I love our visit to India Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's a huge addition. Punk Rock Spider-Man by Daniel Kaluuya. He's great. I love the little details, like Daniel Kaluuya Spider-Man, when he goes to Spider, so there's like the central hub of Spider-World. There's all these multiverses, and in the multiverse, there's like Spider-World, where all the spider people gather in this big utopia. And when he shows up there, his character is like cut out, but like he has lines around him. Like he's sloppily cut out character that's pasted in there.
Yeah.
Which I think is thematically to show us that he doesn't belong there.
Right.
And he's telling you the whole time, but I was like, this is the fake punk rock character that is in all these movies.
Yeah.
No, this guy's punk rock to his core.
Yeah. Fuck the establishment, Yeah.
Alright, my name's Obi Brown. I was bitten by a... What would you like to know? Yeah, man. And for the last 3 years, I've been the one and only... Wait. You think I'm going to show you my secret identity? Come out of here. That is when I'm not playing shows, antagonizing fascists, staging unpermitted political action / performing art pieces, or having a laugh at the pub with a man them. I'm not a role model. I was briefly a runway model. I hate the AM. I hate the PM. I hate labels. I'm not a hero because calling yourself a hero makes you a self-pathologizing narcissistic autocrat.
Yeah, Across the Spiderverse continues the adventures of Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, Peter B. It's really continuing that coming of age of Miles and him figuring out his identity as Spider-Man and him realizing that he's not just another version. He's Miles Morales and he is Spider-Man. Like regardless of what anybody is saying about him, whatever, regardless of what people are saying that he's an anomaly and this and that. And I just thought that was like, it's such a empowering movie for children as well. And like young boys really trying to figure out who they are and like realizing that they can be who they choose to be, and they can choose to be somebody who is heroic and somebody who is willing to not be afraid in the face of adversity and different things like that. And I see this. I mean, even Into the Spiderverse too. I pointed this out last time we reviewed this. Was like just seeing the reactions from young black boys to the character of Miles Morales is just really, really cool to see, because they can see themselves under the mask, and like I just find that really great. And yeah, it's just, this movie is so impressive, and it amazes me that something like this can even be accomplished in the first place. I'm like, just where do you start? You know, it's just so many different things moving on frame. All the characters and all the voice work and everything. It's just so incredible. And there's just so much love and care that's put into these films, and that's translates so well onto screen.
There's really only one criticism you could maybe make towards this movie, and that's maybe that it's too much. It's 2 hours and 20 some minutes, which I guess is the longest American animated film ever made, which is weirdly not that long, but also like there is so much crammed into this 2 hour and 20 minutes, and it's only half the story because we are left at a cliffhanger. Yeah. It's really like, it's just like there's a lot going on, but I do think it's really well measured in like what it chooses to spend time with, and like who it like chooses to focus on, because we actually open with Gwen. Yeah. We don't open with Miles at the start of this movie, and they really I mean, Miles is still the center of our story, but they really do kind of become more like a duo, and then we reunite with Peter B later on, and that's kind of like, okay, so this is like our trio, this is like our core that's going to bring us into the next movie too. Right. I think Oscar Isaac as Miguel, he's great. Miguel's like a
Spider-Man 2099. He's like futuristic Spider-Man. He's a lot more jaded because he's the one that actually like destroyed his universe because of like not being a part of another, or the universe that he went to, he destroyed because he was trying to get his family back, who had died tragically somehow in his original timeline. And the movie is all about canon and about breaking canon and what the ramifications of doing so. And his character is just really interesting because he's very he almost crosses that line, and it's really interesting for Spider-Man because Spider-Man's such a poster boy. You know what I mean? He's not Batman, and so to see an actually like really conflicted Spider-Man is kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, and a lot of the movie's just a big middle finger to anybody that just didn't like Miles Morales for being a black child, basically. Yeah. Right. which is pretty great, and was actually a very like, you know, comic books and nerd fandoms in general struggle to let anybody who's not a white male like be a central character without people making a bunch of excuses for their bigotry.
And I mean, I will
saying they dislike it.
I will make a hot take where I think Miles Morales is a more interesting character than Peter Parker. Damn. Personally, probably not, but I just, not that I resonate with his character more. I just think he has more things going for him other than like the same shit we've seen with Peter, where he's like struggling with his relationship with MJ, or struggling with his the death of Uncle Ben, and you know, overcoming that. They have similar things because they are Spider-Man, but I just find Miles to be more interesting. Well, he's got more personality.
That's also like the text of the movie is, does Spider-Man need to have all these same notes,
right?
Or can Spider-Man be different,
right? Does
Spider-Man need to have the Uncle Ben tragedy and or the MJ tragedy, right? Or the whatever? Like, are these tragedies core to his person, or is it, can you forge your own path,
right?
And that's like both the subtext and the literal text of the movie and of the Miles Morales character, which is why it's smartly written. Although, now that we mention it, Kingpin and Spider-Man 99 are just the same character.
Essentially, yeah.
I'm greeting my family from an alternate dimension.
But I think the difference is that like Spider-Man 2099 actually went through with it, and we see the ramifications of that, as opposed to Kingpin, who really didn't have a lot of knowledge of what he was doing in the first place.
No, he's just a big boy.
Yeah, he was just a big guy with no neck. And yeah.
Had Catherine Hahn doing all the science for him.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much more to say about this movie other than it's an incredible feat. technologically and just for the craft of filmmaking as well. It's something that probably won't ever be replicated again unless they do it again in the third movie. I just don't see it really getting better than this. If they can, that's awesome too. But this is definitely like you said, like the Empire Strikes Back of this, where it's like, yeah, this is the one kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those movies you finish and you're like, damn, that was a movie.
Right.
Oh.
And I almost wish I saw this in theaters too.
Yeah, I kind of regret not seeing it in theaters too. It's a Letterboxd favorite. It's like the 4th highest rated film of Letterboxd all time. People on Letterboxd fucking love it. I mean, it is fucking amazing. I don't know about that. That's also one of those things where just like whatever the newest hype thing ends up at the top for a while, and then eventually things even out.
I mean, it's the best Spider-Man movie. It's probably the best superhero movie ever made.
This series, I think, has easily been like, oh, we just made the best superhero movies.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is how you do these characters. And actually, like, again, I've said this before. I think superheroes translate better to animation than they do live action. I think you could just do more with it. You can really break reality. It doesn't have people running around in goofy-ass costumes, and it doesn't look
and it's closer
ridiculous
to the original medium. Like
right.
a comic book is more like an animation than it is like a regular film.
So, I mean, it would be cool to see like maybe more characters done in this style of animation. Like, I would love to see Iron Man like this. You know what I mean? But I also don't want it to get too oversaturated, and then it loses its charm. It loses its creativity, because that's usually what happens, unfortunately. And actually the right. So we probably won't see it for a while.
And for like animation,
I mean, I could just imagine like the workload.
This movie got postponed once for crunch for animation. It got postponed like 6 months to do extra animation. They were working on it up to the end. There's even like multiple versions that were out in theaters.
Yeah,
that had like different
dialogue and stuff.
Yeah, slightly different dialogue and Easter eggs.
Pay your writers, man. Pay your animators, please.
Truly. So, I think that's it. We have looked back on the year. And then we're going to look forward to Halloween.
Yeah. Get ready for spooky season, guys. We're going to be cranking out some spoopy reviews.
Yeah, we'll have some horror movies coming in October. Maybe we'll come up with some themes. I think we can lock in Hereditary, because we both haven't seen Hereditary.
Yeah, that's one I've been meaning to watch.
We're going to do some modern horror. So last year we did the classics. Now we're going to do sort of some of the, the new classics, the new jams.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I was going to say it was a pretty good year for movies. Actually, 2022 is really good too. I think I wouldn't say we're in another golden age of film, but I think the creativity is kind of coming back, and we're seeing less and less of the Marvel-esque, Star Wars-esque type of crap, and so I'm happy to see that.
Well, this was a summer of market correction where things did not do as good as they expected.
Yeah.
The Flashes, the Blue Beetles, the Indiana Joneses.
Yeah.
Even the Mission Impossible fell off a cliff a little bit after the first week. A lot of these big like franchises are not drawing what they thought they would. And I think it's more just, it's a market correction. It's just when you make the most expensive thing ever and then need it to appeal to everyone. Right. Everyone can only like so many things. And this year it was Barbie.
Yeah.
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 You can't have 12 Barbies in one summer. So
yeah. So movies aren't dead. Is Dune coming out soon?
Dune got postponed again.
2024?
It's postponed into 2024.
That sucks. I was looking forward to that. But
so there'll be some Oscar stuff. Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Scorsese. I want to see the
4-hour-long movie.
I want to see The Creator.
Yep.
That's coming out soon.
With Denzel's son.
Yeah, John David Washington. There'll be some stuff. And then, Halloween. Movies are alive, I think.
Yeah, it's still ticking. It's not completely dead. So yeah, until then, everybody, unless you had any more closing remarks,
just keep on rocking in the free world.
Doot diddle doot.
Doot doot.
Hey, who's the new guy?
Hey, Pop. He's Miles, and he wasn't invited.
Oh, you weren't invited and you came anyway?
Right?
Hey, new guy must be in love with you.
Okay,
No,
whoa, Pop.
I'm not. Oh, I'm very good at reading people.
Who are you?
I'm glad you asked, new guy.
I'm not a new guy.
My name is Pravitra Prabhakar, and for the past 6 months...
And even he got a watch?
Yeah,
Being Spider-Man is so easy. I wake up, skip the workout because I'm naturally buff and I don't want to get too big, you know? Do almost nothing with my amazing hair.
You don't use any product at all.
Just coconut oil, prayer, some genetics. Then I swing by school, don't really have to try, but I do anyway. Fight a few bad guys, feed a few street dogs, quick break for a cup of chai with my Maya auntie.
I love chai tea.
What did you just say? Chai tea? Chai means tea, bro. You're saying tea. Would I ask you for a coffee with room for cream?
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
Then I hang out with my girlfriend Gayatri. She's an extremely classy teenager. Hey girl, tonight I was thinking... Hello, Police Inspector Singh, this is your daughter. I do not know her. And to top it off, I live in the best possible Spider-Man city, Mumbattan. Quick tour. This is where the traffic is, this is where the traffic is, this is also where the traffic is. There's traffic here too. And this is where the British stole all of our stuff.